Part will take 5 minutes and we'll talk about treatment. Treatment of a pseudocyst of pancreas either is done by surgeons or is done by gastroenterology or is done by radiology. So 3 things. Either you do a cystoenteric drainage or you do a endoscopic drainage definitely into the bowel, or you do a percutaneous drainage into this. Now the question is when to do what, which is the confusion that has persisted for the last 10 years, and even after today evening you are more confused. I'm very happy. When you talk about percutaneous drainage, as you can see in the picture, the only indication that has come up in a percutaneous drainage is a frail patient. The patient is so frail that the patient is unfit for a endoscopic drainage also. The cyst is found to be infected and you do not have any other option rather than to control sepsis by this. Now, percutaneous drain, as will be taught to you, is an important part of WOPN. So, what overlaps very rigidly is that a WOPN is drained by percutaneous. Now, there is a big line that needs to be understood, and in this picture, see that the operator has transgressed the stomach to reach into this. So, radiologists are claiming that they are doing good jobs. They may be, but a percutaneous drain for you to know in an examination is only reserved for these 2 indications. It's not a good treatment as a definitive maneuver, never is. It is just a stopgap to take out sepsis. That's it, nothing more. If you think over the fight between gastroenterology and endoscopy, there has been Cochrane reviews, there has been studies which have compared both. The points now, the pendulum is swung towards an endoscopy, which says that the hospital stay is shorter, okay? The pain that is experienced or the post-operative pain definitely will be much less, okay? And the cyst recurrence rates are said to be more or the less equal, with surgical rates being much lower than that of endoscopic. But that was not a significant value. But for the patient, what is important is that the patient has a shorter hospital stay. It is a much patient-friendly procedure than think about having a recurrence of the cyst. So this is the reason endoscopies for the last 10 years have gradually delved into this arena, and more they have captured our food. So I really get very unhappy when someone eats our food. Now, talking about endoscopy and talking about surgery. Now, a little bit of philosophy. I know that it has been a long class. We'll end soon. Question number 1. Does your patient need an operation is the first and the most important question. Because majority of pseudocysts in a background of an acute pancreatitis will go for a self-resolution, and it is only about 10% of such things which will at all persist beyond 8 weeks to produce a significant symptom, which could be vomiting, etc., to produce a problem. Now, when will you drain a pseudocyst? The classical thing was the rule of 6, okay, or Bradley's rule of 6, which was said to wait for 6 weeks, allow a size of 6 inch, have a wall thickness of 6 millimeter, and people had more funny things. We have forgotten all of this now. What we use is only one word, is symptom, symptom, and symptom. If it is an acute pseudocyst with a symptom, then think over the time allow a duration of 4 to 6 weeks for the wall to mature. If it is a chronic pseudocyst with any size and symptom, please think about a drainage. These are the words that are the most important thing. What approach, endoscopic versus surgery, depends upon your hospital and who you are working with. Both will have its own set of complications. As a surgeon, definitely I will always go for surgical intervention, and endoscopic intervention, as I've shown, Cochrane reviews say that, are superior to that. But again, there are not very strong data to suggest that. The next and the most important question, particularly those of you who are very close friends with gastroenterologists, please convey this to them. Have you ruled out a tumor? If you have ruled out a tumor, then what is your surgical plan? And remember that for an endoscopist to drain, they cannot drain a cyst which is not close to the stomach. So please make them understand, or please tell them the importance of the distance between the cyst and the stomach. Cysts which are not adherent to the stomach, you may puncture them with many tubes and catheters and stent, but that becomes a very, very, very dangerous option. So please think over what is your surgical plan. Two ways to drain: transpapillary means an ERCP procedure. Dilate the papilla, find out the leak and drain through this so that all the fluid comes into the duodenum. Not done nowadays, but what people do is that they will place a stent across and they will do something called transmural drain, where they will use a stent, okay, so called as a this LAMS or long acting. So these are covered stents, and in this stent like things that they use, so what is important is that these stents will have one narrow neck and there are two flanges which will drain. This has been the revolution that has been created, and remember that has been important in understanding the drainage. And majority of the hospitals with a good gastroenterology will always be doing this with a very good answer. But again, as I have told you, the biggest problems in this is only one. The cyst has to be adherent to this. The biggest problem that they face is two things. One, bleeding from the wall, because there could be gastric varices and pseudoaneurysms, and number two is retrogastric perforations. So for this reason, if you consider adding an endoscopic ultrasound, okay, now endoscopic ultrasound plus an endoscopic drainage, this talks about the efficacy of the procedure. There are people who have done multiple studies and they have completed this. Surgical drainage. Routes can be either open or laparoscopic, and in the last decade, lots of laparoscopic, like Dr. Palnivelu has a big series of laparoscopic cyst drainage with a very excellent result. Now, before you think about open or lap, what are the things to do in this procedure? First of all, know to read the CT scan. What is important in the CT scan business to read, to understand, is that see where the colon should be. If this is the picture of the colon, then remember that this is the colon, and see where the cyst is. This is the location of the cyst, and remember that this is the location of the cyst. Now I hope you will appreciate that if this is the cyst, majority of the cyst is going down like this. And what you also appreciate is that the stomach is here. So this kind of cysts are always better drained by what intervention? This kind of cysts, hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
So this kind of cysts, as you can see, are better drained by keeping the jejunum rather than joining the stomach. As you can see, there is a loop of jejunum that is very close to this. So the next time you do a drainage operation, always do the CT scan with a coronal and a sagittal view and learn how to take a decision. Now see another cut. I took this from one among the radiology sites. What type of drainage will you do in this one? Stomach or jejunum?
Stomach, sir.
How come? How come? Okay, which one is the stomach? This one is the stomach. Which
Yes,
one
sir.
is the cyst? Or I should mark the cyst for you, I think. I should mark the cyst for you, that is much better. So anything that are marked in red, sorry, the blue is the cyst. Things that are marked in green is the stomach. And now where is the colon for you then? The colon
Below.
is the yellow thing. So this is the colon. I hope you will appreciate that majority of the cyst is in the supracholic compartment. Okay, so it is a much better route for this to be drained into the stomach. The loops of intestine, so these are loops of jejunum. Now see that they are not exactly, it is not bulging. Oh, I really forgot. But guys, what is this structure that I am trying to show you by the white dot line? What is this dot 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 lines? This is the transverse mesocolon. I appreciate that the cyst is not bulging through the transverse mesocolon. So if you understand this one, see another cut. Now again, another cut. I will again show you the same colors quickly to make you understand. So this is the stomach, okay? We have shaded the stomach green. This is the cyst, okay? Done. And now can you see the colon? The colon is like this, okay? Can you see that still majority of the things will be better drained if you approach it like this. So this is the way we read a CT scan, and the next time you take a diagnosis, please remember that this is how we understand making a decision. Okay, so have I made you understand this point? Last 5 minutes and we end. So when to operate on a pseudocyst? Common Viva question is this one: when to operate? What is the indication? The answer number 1 is that it is producing a pressure symptom. Pressure on what? Pressure on the stomach. What is the color of the vomitus if it presses on the antrum? Is non-bilious. Or pressure on the duodenum. What is the color of the vomiting? It is bilious. Very good. Or pressure on the bile duct. What will happen if there is a pressure on the bile duct? Patient will have
Jaundice.
Jaundice. Very nice. So if there is a pressure symptom, that's it. Please drain the pseudocyst. Or it is increasing in size and is producing pain. Mind it, this is pretty dangerous, tricky thing. If it is increasing in size, always, what will be your differential diagnosis?
Tumor.
A tumor. Okay. If it is an infected cyst, then will you drain or will you think about a percutaneous drain? Is a very tough decision. Number 4, if there are bleeding complications like a pseudoaneurysm, it is better to think about coiling, minimally invasive surgery should be the last option. So please see that what I mentioned was in this aspect, what I did mention was that all are things to do with the pressure symptoms. All are the things that is have to do with the pressure problems. Now, operations. Preoperative preparation, remember that the only preoperative preparation of concern is that no to have a good gastric lavage, because you will need a gastric clean stomach area for doing this. Number 2, you may indent a blood, but blood transfusion is not required. So just reserve 1 unit of blood because operation sometimes can get bloody. Okay. Next one is that please remember that read the CT scans again before you jump onto the operation. Think, ask yourself, is it a tumor or is it a pseudocyst? Incisions and exposure. I made these pictures so that I can save time. My preferred incision always, like majority of the books will always say, is to make an upper midline. There are few books which will sometimes say that, particularly if you are planning an operation for a chronic pancreatitis, and then it is better to make a rooftop like incision which allows you both a ductal drainage, because what a rooftop does for you is that A rooftop allows you to expose the full length of the pancreas rather than an acute one. So if you ask me, sir, my decision taking in an acute pseudocyst is a longitudinal. For a chronic pancreatitis where I need to do a ductal drainage, I will use a rooftop. This gives me a much better exposure of the whole situation. Laparoscopy is, again, you can use your camera infraumbilically. Okay, you can use usually around this axis. The working ports of the surgeon will be triangulated into this. Okay, there are now many approaches called transgastric, transluminal approaches, where people have entered through the stomach, have done ports on the anterior wall of the stomach, but they are very less done. The classical route of an anterior, like an open operation, is the most common one. Now, what is the decision taking that I have made? The first and the foremost, on entering the abdomen, review your CT scans, as I've already told you. See the bulge. The bulge in this one is in the stomach, and as you can see, majority of this cyst had displaced the greater omentum. Whereas on the other hand, the stomach and the omentum is like this, majority of the cyst is bulging through the leaf of the transverse mesocolon, so and displacing the middle artery. Plus, always look for gallbladder stones, and when you have looked for a gallbladder stones, remember you will need a cholecystectomy, open or lap, doesn't matter. So this patient requires a cystogastrostomy. This patient will require a cystojejunostomy. Now there is a rare example of one in which a cyst in the head region has been known to compress the second part of the duodenum, and under those rare location cyst, you may need to do a cystoduodenostomy with the second, sometimes even the third part of the duodenum. But majority of us will be happy doing a gastrostomy or a cystojejunostomy. Now, after you have opened the abdomen, let us talk about the cystogastrostomy first. The important thing is that a gastrotomy on the anterior wall is made between the lesser curvature and the greater curvature. Point of concern, I hope I am showing you the blood vessels of the lesser curvature, which are not that significantly enlarged, but what is something that I always fear is, please look into the engorged veins at the greater curvature. You can get sometimes a splenomegaly. Now, can anyone tell me, if you have a splenomegaly, what is the pathology that you are all worried about? Okay, maybe you should have thought about a portal vein, or sorry, a splenic vein thrombosis. Now, so they are again very tough situations. You should have thought about that. Some people should abandon their surgery at this time if you do not have a good exposure with your vascular, and if you do not know how to do a splenectomy in these rare situations. So remember that, think about the veins at the greater curvature. If required, please ligate these veins, because they will produce a nasty bleed when you are going to open the stomach. So please understand this part. For the surgical postgraduate, this is important. After you have opened the stomach, what you obviously get to see is the posterior wall of the stomach, and the posterior wall of the stomach, as you can see, usually bulges in your view. The posterior wall of the stomach usually bulges in your view, and if it bulges in your view, then look into that. What is done in this case is that before you do anything, aspirate the stomach. Before you do anything, aspirate the stomach, and what comes out of your aspirate is a dirty turbid fluid like this. Dirty turbid fluid, and that means that you are in the cyst. Okay, take a knife, not a cautery, and please excise a 2 to 3 centimeter round disc. So please excise a 2 to 3 centimeter disc of the tissue, which will contain the stomach and will contain the part of the cyst. So it will contain a part of the cyst wall, it will contain a part of the stomach, and then please send it to the gentleman who will be waiting for the frozen section. So while you have your cup of coffee or tea, he is going to tell you whether it is a cancer or a cyst. If it is said to be a cyst, job is very simple. You have opened the cyst wall. At opening the cyst wall, remember, you are going to encounter not only fluid, you are going to encounter debris. Either you use a swab holding forceps, or you use, this is my choice of using a laparoscope to see this and then remove this. Some people use a tummy syringe, and this tummy syringe or this big septo syringe, whatever you call it as, holds a lot of water or normal saline, and then it cleanses the debris. Please mind you the splenic artery. The splenic artery and the branches are sometimes very dangerously close than you think of. So please understand this point. After you have cleaned them out, don't do an overzealous cleaning. Then take a delayed absorbable suture like an PDS or a Vicryl. Take a stitch between with a round body needle, and then the bite should be cyst to the stomach, and then give a knot. I usually give a figure of 8, and then I give 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I try to close in the circle by giving a couple of more, mostly hemostatic stitches at the angle. Some people use a figure of 8 stitch, you can use a single stitch. Remember that these are all hemostatic stitches. So take into mind this part. Okay. Some people have even used staplers. I have not used a stapler ever. I have done it by, even if laparoscopically I have done it by this technique. After this, if you are doing a cystojejunostomy, understand, you always try to have a Roux-en-Y. And while you are creating a Roux-en-Y, if this is a ligament of Treves, as with any Roux-en-Y, we do this usually at a distance of 15 to 20 centimeter from the ligament of Treves. Now think over, if this is the transected end of the Roux loop, now this is the drainage limb. So I will mark the drainage limb with this color, and I will mark the drainage limb with this color, and as you can see, this is the Roux limb that is draining that. The food limb is something that I will mark with this color, so that all the food that is being brought is anastomosed to have a jejunojejunostomy. The jejunojejunostomy is done at least at a distance of 40 centimeter from the cystojejunostomy. So please mind it. So remember this. So this is all about a very important drainage. What is beauty in this operation is that this is a dependent drainage. Now, if you are doing this operation for a chronic pancreatitis, this is in the infracolic compartment that we have described. If you are doing it for a chronic pancreatitis, definitely you are now in the lesser sac. Take the Roux-en-Y limb as you will do in a lateral pancreaticojejunostomy, and then do the operation. So this completes this part. The last is, what is the post of care? The cyst is lined by a granulation tissue and will take about 48 hours to 96 hours to collapse. By that time, the convention treatment is that we keep the patient on a Ryle's tube suction, and when you have done a Ryle's tube suction, the stomach walls are known to get opposed, as was with the cyst wall, and the next picture will be that the cyst wall usually collapses upon itself. But people have reported a syndrome called as a sump syndrome, and with endoscopic procedures done, well, things are really, people are asking about, does a sump syndrome really occur in this? So guys, we have completed the full gamut of treatment of pseudocyst. So I have completed the end. Please ask me any questions in the whole discussion topic.
Does endoscopic ultrasound help us to find out the connection with the duct, sir?
No, unlikely. Endoscopic ultrasound will be very unlikely to tell you the communication with the duct. Number two is that why do you need that? Because if you are thinking about, your question has a very important understanding. You are now contemplating that if you do an endoscopic cyst drainage, you are taking out everything into this. Parallelly now, you also want to do, if this is the main pancreatic duct, and if this is the main pancreatic duct which is leaking, your intent is to put a stent across, and this is what exactly is done now. People do both procedures combined. They parallelly insert a stent across the pancreatic duct as well as put a stent across the lumen to drain that. But again, as I've said, it requires a very high level of expertise. Okay, right. Any more questions, please?